Hello and welcome to See Me Scrap. This is the first time I've done it, so bear with me. This is Lynn from Lynn Grierson Designs, and I'm going to show you how I scrapped a page from an album that I'm working on of a trip that we took at the start of this year. And especially I'm doing a photo book of the whole trip, but this section is the layouts that I did that for 2 days that we had in Barcelona for my birthday. Unfortunately, along with warm winter clothes, woolly hats for the daughter, I packed a virus, so I wasn't feeling my best, but we still had an amazing time because it is such an amazing city. And so these are the layouts that I did for those 2 days, but I'm going to show you specifically how I scrapped this layout here. So I'll just close these other ones, and I might actually do another video for one of these other ones as well later. But today we're going to focus on this layout here. Now I used a template in fact for all of them I used various templates from this pack, which is my Messy Pockets Noted templates, which have 4 templates, pocket scrapping templates, but with a difference. So they've got some big photos, they've got some messy painted clipping masks and so on, as well as journaling cards and everything. And you can see some of the layouts that I did there. So I've got this one, which is template number 3 from that pack, which you find at the lily pad. Just close that down. So I'm going to attempt to recreate the layout. I don't often do this, so okay, Sid, bear with me. And the other thing I need to say as a disclaimer is that I've been doing this for so long that I've kind of fallen into habit. So sometimes you might see me do things and think, oh, that's an odd way of doing that, because I don't tend to use an awful lot of keyboard shortcuts or things like that. But hopefully we'll get there. So this is the first photo that I'm going to show you that I used. And as you can see, this is the original digital photo. And the reason that I wanted to start doing these videos is that I realized that there's lots of little tricks that I use to make my pages, but especially to make my pocket pages, my travel pages, etc. There's lots of tricks I use to make the photos all work together on a page, and also to make the photos work with digital scrapbooking products, because quite often, I mean, digital photos are great, they're fantastic, but like any photos, if you just drag and drop them onto a page made with digital scrapbooking products, sometimes they can look a bit dull, or sometimes the colors just don't quite work with the other photos or with the papers and etc. you're using. So I wanted to just share some of the things that I do as part of my process for making photo books. So I'm going to drag this onto this page here, and first trick that you probably already know is that if you want that to land on the layer that you're going to clip it to, just click that layer in your layers palette, make sure your move tool is active, and then when you drag it on, it will, like magic, land just above the layer that you wanted. And that means all you have to do is clip it to it, and I clip it by hitting the Alt key and then just clicking down. What have I done? I've put it on the wrong one. I have, look at that. There's me trying to be clever, and I clicked the wrong layer. There you go. Right, so it's on the right one now. Okay. And then I'm going to resize, and resize by holding down the shift key and dragging on the corner handles, and that way the proportions stay the same. There's nothing worse if you try and resize by eye. You think you've got it right, and then usually when you upload to the gallery, you'll notice that it's just not quite right, and it's just the proportions are just a little bit off and it doesn't look quite right. So the way to avoid that is to always hold down the shift key and drag with the corner arrows, and that way the proportions always stay the same. So I've dragged it on, and I think I've got it placed pretty much. Let me see, maybe make it a little bit smaller. Okay. I'm not going to try and be too upset if it's not a perfect match. There we are. So that's about the same placement on both sides. So you can see the difference between the original photo, and how it is on this finished page here. So one of the first things I always do is I just do a little bit of a tweak on the brightness and contrast. Might just shut down that looks, it doesn't bing at me. And then I'm going to use the dodge tool just to bring out some of the detail. So you can find the dodge tool over here. You've got your dodge tool, burn tool, sponge tool. So the dodge tool just brightens things up, brings out some of the detail. And then what I actually did, another trick I always do, just try, is duplicate it and put it on a soft light mode, and then just reduce the opacity just a bit. It just brings out the pop. Merge that down. Now what I actually did for this one is that I used a Nick filter, and you can actually find the Nick collection online. I think they're still online for free. They were made free about a year ago. They're really easy to install, really easy to use. I used an analog effect on this photo. So they do a really good black and white conversion as well, but they have these fun ones where they reproduce the look of old cameras. So I think it was this one here that I used. There you go. So, okay. Takes a little bit of time to process. There you go. So you can see that it's starting to look a little bit more like the photo on here. But what I did do is I changed the sky color because I wanted it to work with the other photos, and you can see it's got this sort of much less saturated and slightly more sort of turquoisey blue. So I'm just going to select with my color eyedropper here, I'm just going to select that blue and place the color just by making it just a little bit less saturated, a little lighter, and I'm pretty sure that I dodged up there. That'll do. It's not exactly the same, but I'm not going to try and be a perfectionist about getting it looking exactly the same. Okay, now I'm going to put on this photo here, which is a detail of some of the carving on the outside of the church. You could walk around this for hours, and just so many incredible details to see. So again, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to make sure that layer is active in the layers palette. I've got my move tool active, and I simply drag that on and clip it, and you can see that it's clipped to that layer now and taken the shape of it. So I'm just going to resize and try and get it so it's, there you go, that's about right. Okay, just up the brightness and contrast again, like I said, which I nearly always do. And I also, on this one, I increase the saturation a bit just to bring that colour out. And then bring out the dodge tool again. And especially on photos that are clipped to these painty type masks, what I like to do is I like to use the dodge tool on the edges of the mask, of the photo, just to sort of blend it in pretty much into the background, just to soften those edges and make it work. There you go. Okay, I'll close that down. Now, what I then did is I used this painty transfer brush, which is from my brand new day element pack, which is also at the lily pad. You can also, it's a kit, or you can get just the elements. I'm just going to drag it on top, get it into the position, which is about there. And as you can see, I've erased part of it, so I'll choose a brush, and now I've got one of my own sort of splattery brushes here that I've created in the past. And I'll just get rid of the bits that I don't want. I don't want that. Get rid of that down there. Those there. There you go. And I can see that I've actually changed the colour as well, because I wanted it to have these sort of peachy hues that you can see in the rest of the photos. So I'll just use one of the few shortcuts that I do use, which is Control U, and that brings up this hue saturation dialog box, and I'll just change it and make it a little bit peachier, and I think it was a little bit lighter maybe. There you go, that'll do. And I just erase a little bit more of it because I can see that I have. There you go. Right. Okay, moving on to this photo here, which I have clipped to this journal card, photo card, which has got rounded corners. So I'll click on that. I can see it's active in the layers palette, and open up the photo and drag it on. Clip it using the Alt key and resize by holding down Shift and dragging on the corner arrows. Let's try and get it to fit like I had it. Oh, maybe a little bit smaller. And a little bit smaller yet. There you go. That'll do. So that's just a model of the cathedral, which we saw in a museum a bit later in the day. So image, adjustment, brightness, contrast, because I nearly always do that. Just makes the photos pop that little bit more, just means that they don't get overwhelmed by the, especially if you're using patterned papers and quite colourful digital scrapbooking products. You don't want your photos to be the sort of the least eye-catching thing on the page. Now, what I think I did here for memory is I did my trick that I do, which is to duplicate the layer and then put it on soft light mode. Yes, and that just makes it pop that little bit more. I'll just show you by getting rid of, see, that's it without, that's it with. So it makes the dark parts darker and the light parts lighter, and it just brings it out. Moves down. There you go. Right, now my final photo, which is my favourite one on the page, which is these two cuties, which is daughter 2 and the husband posing outside the cathedral. It was very early in the morning, as you can see, but it's still incredibly busy. So I just drag that on and clip it down, and then pull it out so I can get to the corner handles. Hold down Shift, resize, and let's see, maybe a little bit smaller, I think it was. That looks about right. Yep. Just shut that down. So here we go. Okay, just a little bit of a tweak of the brightness and contrast, but I'm going to put it on soft light anyway, so that will. And I'm actually going to use the dodge tool just to bring out their faces a little bit, just a tiny bit, so they don't get lost. There we are. Okay, so layer, duplicate layer. Again, there's a shortcut for that, but I've just been doing this so long. And then put it on soft light. That's a little bit strong. I'll just take it down a bit by lowering the opacity of that top layer, making it a little less visible. There you go. That works for me. And I might just use the burn tool just a tiny bit just on the background because it's a little bit lost. There you go. Now what I actually did with this photo is another one of my absolute favourite tricks, which is to put a colour overlay on it. And I'm actually going to just drag that from this layout onto this layout by dragging this FX symbol. There you go. So you can see I'm literally pulling that effect onto that photo. There you go. Now it's a really subtle change. I'll just zoom into this a bit. So I'll show you what I did. The colour overlay that I have on it is just this browny grey on overlay mode. Now I'll show you, that's with the overlay, that's without. That's with, it's without. So you can see it just changes slightly the tones in the photo. It just gives it a bit of a pop. Just helps it to blend in with these other sort of peachy colours that we've got. So again, it's with. Now, you don't have to know beforehand what colour overlay is going to work best. Quite often I'll just put an overlay on a random colour. So say I just open up my colour picker and I just went, let me put a blue one on. Okay, so there you got a much colder sort of effect. So I think, okay, no, I'm not sure about that, and just click around, and you'll find something that works for you. I mean, for beachy layouts, quite often something around these hues works really nice. But generally, for making photos that are a little bit dull or could do with a bit of a help, just a sort of a browny grey is really good. The other trick that I like to do is, which I will show you, I'll just duplicate that layer and change the colour that's on the overlay. What shall we have? Shall we have let's have a bit of fun. We'll go for a purpley hue. Okay, it's a bit dark, about there. Okay, so I've gone for a purpley hue. And then what you can do, get a soft brush, nice big soft brush, a bit smaller, or maybe about 600. And then you can erase parts of it, so you can get with different colours. So you see, so you can have lots of fun with that. But I'll just get rid of that one because I just wanted just the one. Okay. Right. Now, I'm going to move on to finishing it up by adding the journaling and any little bits and pieces. So one of the things I had here was I had this date stamp, and that's actually from my Parisian date stamp pack. And you can load this into your brushes palette. So say you're going to be using it a lot, you can actually load all the date stamps of 2017, for example, into your brushes palette. But what I often do is I literally just open up the pack and open the date the month that I want, and now I'm going to drag it on here. I should have clicked a bunch, so I'll move it down. There you go, so it's underneath those. Move it into space. Just about here. It was a little bit smaller, I think. to recolor it, the simplest way is once again just to use a colour overlay. So just colour overlay, put it on normal if you just want to change the colour of something, and I'll just grab that colour from there, give it darker. There you go. Okay. Right, now I'm going to add this postage stamp, which, like this painty transfer bit, is actually from my brand new day kit. So I'm just going to actually hang on, wait a bit, and make sure that I've got the right. There you go. And drag it onto there. Oh, I didn't have the right thing. I'm going to bring it to the front because I can see that it's actually right at the front. In fact, it's right over this edge of this border, and pop a bit of a shadow on it. I'm just going to tweak Control U just to change the saturation just a little bit, because I can see that I've actually done that so that it blends in a little bit more, just a little bit more subtle and a bit just to fit the tones of the photos a bit better. Now, I don't want this black, so this brush here, this film strippy brush, which comes with the template, is already a really good colour, but I want this to match with that. So again, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to go colour overlay, and then I'm going to actually change it to so that it's this colour here, and there you go. Now, if I'm going to cheat, I'm going to just drag my journaling over onto here, but if I wanted to change this journaling to match, what I would do is I'd highlight it. I've got my character dialog box open here, so I'm just going to change it to just standard spacing between it, and then I can change it to whatever I want in terms of the size, so on, and I can change the color just by making sure that it's selected, and then I can go here and change the color just like that. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drag, here's one I prepared earlier, as they say in the cooking shows, and I'm just going to drag that over. And the same here, this is just the journaling that I had. You can see my models. And on here, make sure I'll click on that so that it lands in the right place. Drag this over. Click on that so it lands in the right place. Whoops. And drag this over. And there you have it. Just going to up that a little bit, contrast on that a little bit, so it's a little bit richer. There you go. And there we are. Not quite exactly the same, but it'll do. And that's how I scrap that page, and that is what I do for all of our photos of our trips. And then I save it. I actually save it as a 10 by 10 page because that's the size I print at Shutterfly. And I end up with a photo book of our travels. And the best part is that when you're scrapping it, it's like you're reliving that day again, which is great fun. Thanks. Bye.